Cartoon Obsession. Hello everybody, my name is Nathan, and I am the man with a cartoon obsession. I told you guys that I would be covering an obscure cartoon and an obscure anime this month, those being the winners of the polls I put up a while back, and I'm following through with that by reviewing the obscure cartoon you all voted on first. I'm honestly happy that this show won the poll. I've been meaning to rewatch it and talk about it on the channel for years, and this finally gave me an excuse to do so. Now, without any further ado, let's get into my review of Kappa Mikey. Kappa Mikey is a cartoon that ran on Nicktoons Network from February 25th, 2006 to September 20th, 2008, over the course of 2 seasons and a total of 52 episodes. It was actually the network's first original half-hour series. It was created by Larry Schwartz and produced by his company, Animation Collective, who were known for a distinct style with all of their shows being made using programs like Adobe Flash. I mentioned that the series ran for 52 episodes, but there were also 2 pilots that looked very different than the series, which is not uncommon. One aired on Nicktoons and the other one aired on MTV, the latter of which is not very good to be honest, but I think the version that was found was redubbed and had an unofficial soundtrack, so take that with a grain of salt. I watched Kappa Mikey when I was a kid, and while I remember liking it, I didn't remember much of the show itself until I rewatched it, and then it was coming back to me. Especially how awesome the theme song is.
Buzz, buzz, up and down, Mikey's come to town from the USA, lost in Japan.
The series follows Mikey Simon, an American actor who goes to Japan to be the new star of the action TV show Timo! Mikey is a fish out of water as he doesn't know his way around Japan or much about the culture. The show does see him learn more about the country, but it also follows the rest of the Lilymoo cast, dealing with both celebrity problems and everyday situations as well. Almost all of the episodes follow the same format. They usually start and end with Lilymoo segments. The same one, really. The only difference is that something goes wrong during the take in the beginning, and the take at the end is perfect. They mix up the formula every once in a while, whether it be adding in a third take of the segment or only having one take. They've also reused the segment in another episode, but to my recollection, that only happened a couple times, and something was usually changed from instance to instance. There is continuity throughout the series, which is cool to see in a comedy, but it's not something I'd exactly call a story. A lot of the plots are predictable, but they also do take some unexpected turns. One thing you can expect from this show, though, are anime references. There are so many anime references, which is a given considering the fact that Kappa Mikey is really just a satire of anime. There are many anime tropes as well. For example, I like the anime-style bumpers with the dancing sushi, which got their own spin-off, by the way. There are also many references to Western culture as well. Tell me Scoop Suzuki, the newspaper editor, isn't meant to look like J. Jonah Jameson from Spider-Man. And tell me this clip of background music doesn't sound like Beat It by Michael Jackson.
Let's see it!
It's hero time!
They even reference other Western animated series with anime influences like Hi Hi Puffy Yumi. Basically what I'm saying is, this is a reference-heavy show. I understand that might not be everybody's cup of tea. Some people like humor and entertainment with a little more substance than everything just being a reference. For what it's worth though, I think it gets the job done. Since I just said the word humor, why don't we move on to that aspect next? I'd say the humor in this show is varied. There's some nonsensical humor, but I find it enjoyable more often than not. Like the running gag of Mikey's parents' answering machine having ridiculous outgoing messages.
Hi, you've reached the Simon household. We're not here. Neither's our son, Mikey. We're so proud of him.
Why do you encourage?
Although, there are some stupid jokes.
Looks like you forgot to water your acorns, Gonard!
Some of the jokes are predictable as well, and some are pretty bad, but it's still fun for the most part. There are also a fair amount of fart jokes, but some of them are funny, at least to me. Not all of them, but it's all about the comedic timing. There's an episode full of farting, and there's also an episode full of butt jokes. I found some of them funny, but it got old after a little while.
Touch them! Touch my butts! Touch my stinking butts!
The over-the-top humor and facial expressions really make the show for me. I know it's just par for the course for this type of show, but there's a unique charm about the way it's done here. If I'm being honest, I was laughing at just about every episode. Not every joke hit the mark for me, but I still give the comedy in this show a pass overall. Now let's move on from the jokes to the characters that tell them. We'll start with the titular Mikey Simon. He's the main character of both Kappa Mikey and the show within the show, that being Lily Moo, like I mentioned earlier. He's very ignorant when it comes to, well, just about everything. From Japanese culture to other people's feelings, he is self-aware when it comes to his faults, which can be funny, but it can also be annoying. I can't fully explain why, but Mikey's character reminds me of a more tolerable Johnny Test. Still not a great main character, but I've seen much worse. One other small thing I wanted to mention about him is that Mikey uses the word "wever" instead of "whatever," and occasionally other characters use it as well. It's outdated slang, if it was really even used in the first place, but it's not used terribly often enough throughout the series that it irritates me. Anyway, the next character is Lily, who thinks she's the real star of Lily Moo. Mikey has a crush on her, but she's vain and hardly ever cares about anyone other than herself. She does have some good-hearted moments, but as a whole, she's my least favorite character. I'm not a fan of her attitude, and she's also the most generic and least memorable character on the show in my opinion. That leads me into Mitsuki, who is written to be the least memorable character on the show, and it works for the rest of the characters. She has a crush on Mikey, but she's the one that's always forgotten and overlooked by everybody else, which hurts my soul. I love Mitsuki. She's so nice and caring, plus they give her some interesting character development in a couple of episodes. Don't overlook Mitsuki. She's one of, if not my favorite character. Another one of my favorites is Gonard. He's the lovable idiot of the show. He's not the brightest, he's big and strong, and he loves to eat. Does this remind you of another character? If you said Goku, you would be correct, especially considering the fact that Sean Schemmel is the voice actor for Gonard. Regardless of that, I feel like Gonard is still unique enough. Plus, he has the most and some of the best comedic moments in this show, which is always a good trait to have in a comedy series.
Yours truly, Gonard.
Then there's Guano, the writer and director of Lily Moo. He's the sidekick character of the series. He's okay. I don't really have a strong opinion on him one way or the other. He has a habit of freaking out a lot and he's terrified of Ozu. Ozu is the boss, and he plays this sort of maniacal but also kind-hearted boss character very well. He knows how to rule with an iron fist, but he can also be fair when he wants to. Not to mention he's responsible for this amazing gem.
I own the sun and the moon and the show and the yang and the yin and the yang and you and the if and the flow and the blast and the blink. I'm foggy like a dragon wing.
And finally there's Yes Man, Ozu's, well, Yes Man. He always chimes in and backs up Ozu's statements. However, he does it in creative and humorous ways. I said Gonard had the most comedic moments in the show, but Yes Man is a very close second.
Prepare the lobster. Like crabs, only bigger.
I have a small nitpick with those last two characters though. The show takes place in Japan, and only Ozu and Yes Man have accents, but everyone else does not. I understand this for the sake of not being too offensive, but still, it's just something that I picked up on. As a whole though, the voice acting is solid. A lot of the side characters' voices give off the vibes of a 4Kids dub, which makes sense considering there are some 4Kids voice actors on the show. One that stands out to me is Dan Green, the voice of Yugi Moto and Atem from the Yu-Gi-Oh series. He voices a lot of side characters on the show, but he does a good enough job of differentiating his voice for different characters, and I can say the same for a lot of the other voice actors as well. Now there's one more aspect that I wanted to talk about, and I saved it for last for a reason. My biggest problem with the show lies in the animation. The Flash animation doesn't exactly hold up all that well, but it looks better in some areas than others. The characters' movements are stilted more often than not, and occasionally it can be unpleasant to look at. That being said, there is a bit of charm to the art style. When the characters are given those anime facial expressions and are staying still, I think it looks good, at least for the time. There are inconsistencies with the art style, especially facial expressions and facial features, which does happen with anime, but it doesn't always look good here. In fact, the inconsistent facial expressions bother me a bit. Sometimes they look really bad and I just can't ignore it. I will say I do like the contrast between Mikey's thickly outlined design and the rest of the cast's thinly outlined looks. It's an interesting way to differentiate between the American and Japanese characters. As a whole though, the art style and especially the animation is the show's weakest point. Does bad animation make a bad show though? No, not always. In this case I don't think it does. What Kappa Mikey lacks in the visual department, it more than makes up for with its humor, its characters, and more than anything else, just its enjoyability factor. It is a flawed series, I can't deny that. But I also can't deny the charm this show gives off. There are other cartoons that reference anime and do it much better, but that doesn't matter to me. This is a good show for what it is, at least in my opinion. I'm sure this isn't a show for everybody, but for me this show is a love letter to anime, and it's just an enjoyable cartoon altogether. Overall, I give Kappa Mikey a 77 out of 100. It's nowhere near perfect, but I'm glad I finally got the chance to talk about this one. I could be looking at it through rose-colored glasses, but as it stands, it gets a thumbs up.
Can robots fall in love?
I wish, Mikey Simon, but sometimes robots only hate.
Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you have any other cartoons, anime, or other animated works that you want me to talk about in the future, please let me know. After all, it's not my channel, it's our channel. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and feel free to check out my social media pages, audition for an outro, and join the official Cartoon Obsession Discord, the links for all of which are in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.
I'm Aku, and thank you for watching Cartoon Obsession.